Yes, we've got a film that will rile any nature lover. It's about the rise in the illegal trapping of wild British songbirds.
Miranda Krestovnikov has been to meet those trying to stamp out a crime that should be a thing of the past.
Keeping wild songbirds as pets reached a peak in popularity during the Victorian era and led to hundreds of thousands being caught to supply demand. This caused the population to collapse, and halting their decline became a priority for conservationists, finally culminating in the 1954 Wild Birds Protection Act, making it illegal to trap them. Today, all birds sold legally like these must be ringed to certify that they're captive bred, but this hasn't stopped the illegal trade in British songbirds. In fact, it's thriving. Many legal captive-bred birds are sold across Europe, including here in Malta. The problem with this demand is that it also feeds a black market. With his appearance disguised, an RSPCA officer has agreed to tell us what he has witnessed firsthand.
A lot of birds are sold at bird shows, and that might be inside the halls or very often outside from car booths and vans and so on. We'll determine who they are, where they're operating from, where they're keeping their birds, so that we can get the birds from them.
And just how bad is the situation?
People can make tens of thousands per year. One that I can think back on involved a Maltese national who'd come over specifically to buy birds from bird trappers. We caught him with over 800 wild birds, mainly chaffinches. He was then going to box them up, put them on a flight, sell them in his British bird shop in Malta. That's £40,000 in that one consignment that we intercepted.
In the last 10 years, the increase in demand for these British songbirds means the price has doubled, and now they can fetch up to £70 a bird. For the criminals trapping the birds, it's less about supplying enthusiasts keen to improve their collections and more about the money, trapping the birds in volume with little regard for their welfare. The enforcement agencies often rely upon public tip-offs when they chance upon traps or see people acting suspiciously.
Most of the bird trapping is done in rural locations, but they could be on your neighbour's shed, they could be in their gardens or allotments. The problem is that they all look very different, and people may not actually realise what they're looking at.
Sometimes almost invisible methods like glue are used, as this disturbing footage reveals. This causes severe stress to the bird and often results in injury. This coal tip luckily made a full recovery.
Here we've got a drop trap, or a decoy bird, a live bird that's already been caught. Would be put into there, which attracts the others to come around.
Yeah.
And then we've got two catch compartments on each end. The birds that will be attracted to both the seed that's around plus the decoy bird that's in there. Eventually they go onto the stick inside, and that closes the lid behind them.
So simple, isn't it?
Two more wild birds trapped.
This trap was evidence in one of Inspector Lamport's most recent cases, along with this footage. When the RSPCA and the police raided 67-year-old Malcolm Spencer's property, they found 61 wild songbirds. Traps were strategically placed around his allotment. The birds were kept in terrible conditions, and many were behaving erratically, typical behaviour of trapped wild birds. He was not charged with trading the birds, but just last month, Malcolm Spencer pleaded guilty to 34 charges, including causing unnecessary suffering, keeping wild bird traps, and the possession of 18 different species of wild British birds.
Every year, without exaggeration, thousands, if not tens of thousands of wild birds are trapped for the illegal wild bird trade. And this is cruelty on a big scale.
In the last 3 years, convictions for wild bird trapping have doubled. This little goldfinch was seized in one of those cases, but today she's able to be released back into the wild. Ooh, off you go! Woohoo! Birds like this goldfinch almost became extinct in certain parts of the country during Victorian times because of trapping. Let's just hope we don't see history repeating itself.
Oh, what a wonderful note to finish on with that little goldfinch there. But Miranda, how can people help with this? Because I'm sure there's going to be loads of people shocked to have seen.
I know, it's quite shocking. Well, basically, we need people to stop supporting this illegal trade. If
Yeah.
you're thinking of buying a bird, if you're unsure in any way that that bird is legitimate, walk away. Contact the RSPCA. A lot of trappers are caught from tip-offs from the public. Ask questions of the person who's selling that bird. Ask them to provide a proper receipt, information that that bird's been bred legitimately in captivity. And look at the behaviour. We saw the behaviour in the film with those birds behaving very erratically. Those are wild-caught birds and not captive-bred birds. And all birds should have a ring around their leg, and this is really important to look at this, look at the shape of the ring. If the ring is the wrong shape, it may have been tampered with. If it's too big, it may have been put on the bird later on in
Afterwards,
life.
'cause it's got
after
to be
been
put on
caught.
just when
We've actually got some pictures of some fake and legitimate rings here from the British Bird Council. Now, the genuine ones just say BC on them for British Bird Council. The fake ones say BBC on them. I mean, it's unbelievable that somebody's even got that wrong. But that's the way that these fake rings can be spotted.
Yeah, but it's unbelievable that anybody can buy them. But anyway,
Well, that's quite shocking as well. I mean, basically, if you want to apply for a ring, you just have to fill in a very simple form providing your name and your address, and anybody can fake that. But the RSPCA are really hot on this, and they want this application process to be tightened up now.
and we saw in the film there, of course, how the trade works. But who's doing this then, and where are they selling these birds?
Well, there are possibly hundreds of people around the country doing this, and there are definitely some hotspots in Derbyshire, Scotland, and even here in London. So there's an awful lot of people involved in this.
Yeah. Have you ever encountered this before?
No, I haven't. This game is news to me. I mean, people pinching birds' eggs, which you can get heavy fines for, quite
Yeah,
right too.
yeah.
But not this. And by providing food in your garden, you can get masses
Well,
of them.
yeah.
I mean, we've been in our garden now for 10 years, and I've fed daily ever since then. We are awash with goldfinches, as we saw there,
Yeah,
blackbirds.
yeah, yeah.
We've even got house sparrows in an enormous great bay tree. We call it Tower Hamlets because it's packed full of birds. And it's costing me a fortune in food, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Why would you want to see one cage?
And these people just taking advantage. They're gorgeous little personalities. They're so curious, and they just pop into that box, and that's it for them, isn't it?
Much better out in the wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
There's some lighter songbirds news now.
Well-
some birds in Llanelli are confused.
Do you know, if I could say it, I'd be confused.
The crazy weather that we've been having has been causing havoc with the wildlife, but incidentally they've noticed at the Wildfowl and Wetlands Trust down there that some of the chiff-chaffs have been singing the wrong song. Now this time of year, chiff-chaff should be doing this, singing his chiff-chaff song, nice and sunny in the background. Basically they think it's autumn, it's too rainy, and they're doing a sort of a different sort of whistly call, more of a contact call rather than their mating call. So this may even affect their breeding success, but we just don't know at the moment. But hopefully if the weather calms down, they'll go back to
They generally do. I mean, particularly plants as well. They go, oh gosh, but they settle after a while, and it evens itself out during the year.
Yeah.
It's interesting with plants in the garden at the moment. I've got daffodils still out. It's May,
Yeah.
and these are tete-a-tete, the little ones that come out early. Really warm March, got everything going. Cold April and May, it's all sort of backtracked. But
Everything's upside down.
It always has been really.
All real sorted.
Yeah, thanks very much,
We'll
Mariah.
be having Christmas before long. Anyway.
Now, on Wednesday...